Good evening. This is the April 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Public Traffic Safety Commission. And we will begin with a flag salute by Commissioner Sullivan.
All right, if everyone will please rise, face the flag if you have one near you. Place your hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. We'll have roll call now.
Commissioner Carter,
Here.
Hagel,
Here.
Maddox,
Here.
Richardson. Richardson is absent, and Sullivan.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, Anissa, if you want to do the reading of the rules for the COVID-19.
Absolutely. As a reminder, this meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconferencing and electronic means consistent with the state of California Executive Order N-29-20 dated March 17th, 2020 regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, any public comments that were accepted electronically via email or by mail will be read into the record. Details associated with viewing this meeting, ADA accommodations, and submitting public comments were available on the agenda and on the city's social media platforms. The city has received 0 public comments.
Thank you, Anissa. We will go to the consent calendar. And before we make a motion, I did notice on item number 3, I believe it should say the date instead of May, or they should say March 23rd.
Okay, we'll note those changes and we can vote on them with the approved changes.
All right, so I'll make a motion if you like, Bob.
Okay.
To approve the
Motion.
consent calendar and the minutes as amended.
This is Skip, I'll second.
Motion by Sullivan, second by Carter. Roll call.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Hagel,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson is absent, and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a flock presentation, but the captain is not on yet. So we will, why don't we go to item number 2, business, the proposed traffic calming at the Paz Road Roundabout.
Chair Hagel, Ron Moreno is going to give that staff
Okay.
report.
Waiting, can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to the La Paz Road slide, please. Okay. Good evening, commissioners. The staff, has received some communication from the Los Ranchitos HOA. We've met with them multiple times regarding the La Paz Roundabout. There have been concerns from the residents of the HOA that speeding is going on within the roundabout. There have been noted 3 accidents in the area. The particular resident that you see, and I'm looking at the right side of the screen that you're looking at, his fence has been busted 3 times as vehicles have hit this. And you probably are all aware that the horse was hit as well in the center of the roundabout by a drunk driver approximately a year and a half ago. So they have had some concerns with regards to how the roundabout can be improved from a traffic safety standpoint. But otherwise, they are very pleased with the roundabout. They think it's a great accent to the community. They really enjoy it, but they just want to see what items can be done. Staff took a look at it, and there are changes that we are going to be implementing with your recommendation. As you can see on the screen, there are going to be radar speed signs that are going to be installed to alert traffic vehicles of their speed as they're entering into the roundabout. In addition, as we move from the left side of the page to the right, you can see that there's an adjustment to the shoulder line to kind of tighten the lane to give people a little bit of reason, visual reason to start to slow through the roundabout. Also, yield legends would be added as you're entering into the roundabout. Once again, we're going from left to right. Also, one of the concerns that the HOA had was that the signage within the roundabout was too high so that the drivers were not looking at it correctly as they were entering. So we are going to lower those signs to be just 48 inches above the finished surface of the roundabout itself. Another big item as we look towards the La Paz entrance, as traffic is moving from La Paz entering the roundabout, originally, as you can see on the screen, there was the left turn and the right turn. The left was kind of a misnomer because you're actually not making a left, but you're just entering towards the left side of that white stripe. And then you would enter into the roundabout looking towards your left as any driver would to make sure traffic wasn't coming. Then we had also the right lane there. So you stayed to the right of that white line, and then you would move around. After staff examined it, it was noted that a safer option. Sorry, heard a little bit of echo. A safer option would be with one line, eliminating those left and right arrows, and then be able to direct traffic in a safer way to make sure that they were just entering in one lane, and then they would decide with a tighter line there if they were going to head to the east or they would, south, the way you're running on De Portola, or you would enter the roundabout and head north. In addition, we're going to add some chevron signs as well as signage on La Paz as well. So these are the recommendations that staff is bringing to this commission, and we would like some direction on whether to move forward. And if there's any technical questions, Eric Escobedo was the one who put together this plan, and we can answer anything you'd like at this point.
Okay.
Bob, this is Brad.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
I have a question. My observation at La Paz and the roundabout is that a lot of people don't seem to know how to use a roundabout. And I'm wondering if there's a way with our yield sign to say yield to traffic in circle, because they don't seem to understand it's not every other car. It's not, there's been a lot of close calls that I've observed by people just not knowing how to approach it.
Yeah, we are proposing to do the yield legends down on the pavement, but then also a yield sign that the roundabout is moving to the right within the roundabout itself. So that is what is being proposed. I think also, to your concern, by tightening up the lines, this will allow people to stay more in that line of sight and allow people to look to the left and make sure they use it appropriately. Currently, what is happening, because those stripes are closer towards the edge, and you know how people are, they try to cut the corner and run through. And therefore, when they're doing that, that gives us false perception to the car that's trying to yield. And so therefore, we think that'll kind of solve that problem that you're mentioning, Commissioner Sullivan.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. I have a couple questions. One is the accidents that have occurred. I would assume that these are all cars that are entering, I gather you're calling that northbound, or is that eastbound?
Heading from, the left to the right of
From the left to the right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct. That's been the predominance of the accidents.
Are they actually cutting across part of the circle in the middle?
No, the only one that actually crossed the circle was the accident that happened by the drunk driver that actually hit the horse. The rest have been actually just running at a high rate of speed and not seeing that they need to turn quickly, and they've hit the curb and then run through the fence.
Okay, I was kind of wondering, because I drive at a fair amount, and I've noticed, a lot of cars trying to go through way too fast, particularly coming from the west heading, from the left heading to the right. Entering, it's a little trickier than it certainly is going the other direction. And I see cars that they're just going too fast as they approach that. And like Commissioner Sullivan said, if they believe that the people in the circle are the ones that are supposed to be yielding, it can be disastrous. So,
And to your point, that's why we are going to install the radar speed signs, hopefully to give people an idea of how they're approaching. That will certainly assist.
So there will be a radar speed sign up the road a little bit, is that?
Correct. There's going to be one, you can see it on the left side of the page, right at the property line between the two homes.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, yeah, the little blue.
And then one also on the other side, as because that side heading from right to left, they definitely pick up speed through that area when they're going straight. Yeah.
Do we have signs further up the road that say something about traffic circle ahead or yield ahead or something along that lines?
I'm not confident in the answer. I don't think we do. Eric, do you?
We do have advanced signs notifying of the roundabout. We don't have signs acknowledging the yield that you're approaching, but we do have the blinking LED signs that are notifying traffic that you are approaching a roundabout.
Yeah. I wonder there if we notify them that they will be yielding, that if that might help speeds entering the roundabout as well.
Yeah, that is the hope with the conjunction of the roundabout ahead with the radar sign is what we're hoping.
Okay. Anyone else, any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Skip. When I was driving it today, I drive it pretty often also. And I think the recommendations are going to be pretty good because coming up La Paz, when you have the two lanes, one lane sits there and waits for the traffic to go around. The other one tries to merge every time that I've been around it. I don't think people really know how to utilize the, where I grew up, they call them rotaries, but roundabout. And I think as time goes on, when we have just one lane to funnel them in, I think they'll be a little more courteous to the oncoming around the circle. So I think it's a great idea.
I do too. So anybody else? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move staff recommendation on the La Paz roundabout.
Second. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Maddox. And the motion was made by Commissioner Sullivan, and we'll take a roll call vote then.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Hagel,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson. Richardson is absent, and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, has the captain joined us yet? I don't see him.
I spoke with, can you hear me?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I spoke with him. He said he's on the landline. He called in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, maybe he could get promoted up so that he's not muted. Go ahead, Captain Hall. You've been unmuted.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
All right, I am
Welcome.
here.
Welcome.
All right, so first let me apologize. We had to switch it up real quick tonight, and I'm pitch hitting on the flock presentation for Lieutenant Decker. He has been transferred. However, he wanted to see this through, but there was a conflict tonight, and he won't be able to make it. So you guys give me instead.
Well, you're very welcome to join us. So we're excited to hear about Flock.
Well, and I apologize that I'm having to call in. It was unexpected, and I'm on the move headed to Orange County. So
Okay.
have you been briefed on the flock system before, or is this a second presentation or a first?
I believe this should be a first.
Okay.
First.
Is there a PowerPoint slide that came up?
There we go. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to give a brief overview of how Flock works, and then you can ask questions. Or is the committee familiar with automatic license plate readers? They're called ALPRs.
Yes, I believe everyone
Okay.
is.
Okay, so this would be a second generation of that technology, right? So it will do everything that an ALPR does, with the advancement that it recognizes vehicle types. So like criminals are pretty savvy to countering law enforcement technology, right? Like I'll just cover up the license plate, or I'll put a paper plate on, or I'll spray the plate with a reflectant lacquer. Doing things like that immediately defeat the ALPR system, right? As you would naturally believe it would. If it can't read the plate, well, that's it. And weather conditions, things like that, driving actions, maybe knowing where the cameras are. Those are all ways to defeat a traditional ALPR system. Flock is a stationary camera system that we can essentially put anywhere. And we have identified areas within the city limits where Flock would work well. Flock not only recognizes license plates, but it also recognizes year, make, and model of vehicles, right? So through artificial intelligence and algorithms, however the computer programmers have set it up, have made it so that I, as an investigating deputy, can say, hey, the bank was robbed by a guy driving a 500 series blue BMW, approximately year like 90. Flock will search for that type of vehicle. It could even go farther to say, and it had a Rick and Morty bumper sticker on it, or any car that had a Rick and Morty bumper sticker on it that may be near the bank during this time, or has Flock seen this vehicle or a vehicle similar to it anywhere else in the Flock system. So basically, that's the improvement. And PRs were generally, very fixed. They needed a power source. Maybe we had them on cars. A Flock system can be independently mounted pretty much wherever we want it. It'll run on solar. It runs on cellular. So we can stick them anywhere we want them to be. They do not capture the front plate of a vehicle, and they do not capture any pictures of occupants inside the vehicle. It only captures a photo of the rear of the vehicle and uses like trunk design, vehicle design, tail light design, license plate, bumpers, any distinguishing marks like vehicle damage, bumper stickers, things like that, to separate, well, what vehicle are we looking for from what vehicle aren't we looking for? So there's a real value in that technology. Additionally, the Flock, we're able to put in wanted vehicles, or all vehicles, actually, anything entered into the NLET system or the CLET system, which is one of our law enforcement records management systems that holds all our wanted people, wanted vehicle information. I can input that same 500 series BMW gray with rear end bumper damage. Now, Flock will passively watch for that car. And when it does find that car, it'll send a text message out with a picture of the car telling deputies, hey, we just saw this car at the intersection of like Winchester and Yanez at this time. And so it'll always watch for these cars. And so every 2 hours, the Flock system goes into the law enforcement communication system, and it uploads all our wanted vehicle information. This is missing people, wanted people, stolen vehicles, any vehicle we enter into this system, it will passively watch for it. And so will any other Flock camera that's anywhere. So essentially, if New York PD is running the Flock system and they upload their information into Flock, and the stolen vehicle comes through Temecula, Flock will tell us. So in a nutshell, that's basically how Flock works.
Can Flock tell, can you force, so let's say a bank is robbed and, you know, you've got information within, say, 3 minutes. Can you get that information into Flock without the waiting that 2-hour period for it to update itself?
Yes, we can push information into Flock. It just passively extracts that information every 2 hours. But let's say I go out to somebody's house and they're like, hey, my 70-year-old dad suffering from dementia just left the house in our 92 Honda. Here's the license plate number. Or I don't have the license plate number. We can put that information into Flock right there, and in real time, Flock will start watching.
So I would guess that by the fact that it's taking a picture of the rear of the vehicle, that the system probably should do away with any concerns about privacy, not taking it.
Yeah, two reasons why privacy is not really an issue on this, right? First of all, not video. Everybody hates video. These are still images. Second main thing is it's the rear of the car, not the occupant. Like, it may catch like the back of the head of an occupant, right? If you're able to see in the back window, there's no tint, anything like that, but no driver. Like, everybody, remember they had privacy issues over like red light cameras, the 91 fast track, that it was going to take a picture of you and your passenger. And that freaks some people out. That's not an issue here. Also, the information's only retained for 30 days.
Oh, 30 days, okay. Yeah.
Because we should certainly, if we want to access this footage for some situation like I described, it would be reasonable to believe that we would do it within 30 days. Right, if we don't have a vehicle description or a license plate or something that would be of use in Flock, we're probably not going to get it after 30 days.
Yeah. So if there was an arrest of some kind and you needed that photograph for evidence, that would be something you'd likely get within a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, normally on the initial investigation, if you found you had a vehicle information, you would go back and query it in Flock and see if it came up. And maybe if you were doing follow-ups within a couple weeks and you thought you just all of a sudden now came up with vehicle information, you would enter it into Flock then. If 30 days has gone by and you haven't mined out that lead yet to get vehicle information, you're just going to have to use another source.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Yeah,
Good, Greg.
I'm just out of curiosity, what's the funding source for this? Is it a Measure S or was it a grant to the county or city?
That is a very good question, of which I knew the answer to until you asked.
There you
my
go.
My guess, and I can confirm this, but I'm 99% sure we're paying for it out of cost savings, out of the contract with the sheriff. Like we didn't spend all the money that was allotted to us, and we're going to spend it out of there.
Terrific. Thank you.
I've got a question. Is it based on how many locations you put it in, the cost, or is it just a one flat fee type of deal?
No, it's based on, there's a cost per camera and to like initially mount it, right? And then every year we have to re-up a subscription. So there's an initial outlay of about $150,000 to put up 50 cameras. And then in a year, it's about $140,000 to renew the subscription on all of them. I do want to add two things, just so you know, as a piece of education. The criminals do kind of know, right? It's like the idea of having two like Honda Civics sitting next to each other, and one has a club on it and the other doesn't. Is the club defeatable? Absolutely, in about 5 seconds. But the other one doesn't have one on it. So they're obviously going to go to the other car, right? It's the same kind of thing with this flock system. We will advertise that we have it to some degree, but the criminal element will know pretty quick that we have it, and they'll go, hey, don't go there. You know, versus say like a Marietta or a Paris City. Because it to some degree creates a force field, right? Where you're not as anonymous anymore. And criminals like to be anonymous. The other thing I'll throw out, just so you know, is most banks, when they're robbed, they do not call us for like 10 to 15 minutes because they do not want us catching the criminal in their parking lot or inside their bank.
Okay.
But they want their money.
Well, yeah, or the money's insured or whatever, but they surely do not want us turning their bank into some kind of hostage situation or, you know, taking this person into custody on their property. They'd rather we go a little bit further away before we engage in our law enforcement duty.
How is the night vision on those cameras?
Great. And I'm not a tech guy, but it's some hybrid of like an infrared kind of night vision-y system. And then they work very good, obviously, with a reflective plate. And then it picks up the way the vehicles are designed on the back end. So, you know, they have certain edges and the light shape and where the license plate placement is and the back window configuration, antennas. Like they have this very complex algorithm that does a very good job at differentiating vehicles even within a year or two apart, especially if they've made, you know, sweeping model changes. But the fact that it can differentiate between a Honda Civic, you know, and a Toyota year 1994 is pretty impressive.
Because it's still photos, once you get the photo, can you zoom in on it to bring it closer to get other identifying marks?
Yes, I think to some degree, but the value really isn't in the photo. The value's in the location the car was caught on camera. Right? Because if we're looking for like a blue Honda and we catch a couple blocks away from a bank robbery, a blue Honda that matches the description on camera, and then we run the license plate, we're going to get a registered owner. So now we just go talk to the registered owner and we're like, hey, do you know where your car is? I do. Do you know where it was? So the value more is actually like capturing a photo of the car at a certain time in a certain place. And then if we don't know who the suspect is, using license plate information to work ourselves back to who actually was in the car at the time the crime was committed.
Does Flock also give you direction the vehicle's headed in?
Yes, to some degree, based on camera placement.
Right.
Right, because if it's in the northbound lane, right, and we catch the rear end of the car, you can assume it was probably going in the southbound lane, depending on the placement of the camera.
Okay.
A comment and a question for you.
Let's say one flock camera picks it up, then the one 4 or 5 blocks away picks it up, you know, a minute and a half later. That's pretty good for us.
And you probably can even calculate speed.
Oh yeah, right. Well, sure. That's another good point, right? Well, like I don't usually drive through the city at 90 miles an hour, but I may if I just robbed the B of A and I was trying to get away.
Okay, David?
Yeah.
I'll throw out another thing for you. Something that's very unique about bank robbers and career criminals and people that are going to pull off some pretty egregious crime. They often case the area before, right? So not only if you're looking for this car, you can look for cars that may have been in the area the preceding few days. And you'll see that, oh, hey, this 95 Honda keeps showing up there and it's not a bank employee. because they're trying to figure out routines and schedules and money drops.
Good point. Yeah, and having 30 days, data retention really will help doing that kind of research. So.
Yeah, it really is a very cool tool. Our friends over at San Jacinto have had Flock for like the last 60 to 90 days, and it's been quite an interesting listen on their radio frequency, because this Flock camera system is picking up stuff literally all day long.
David?
Yeah, thanks. The great presentation. And I really appreciate that you and Chairman Hagel both touched on sort of the ethical considerations when it comes to privacy. Because even in public spaces, right, people have certain expectations when it comes to what kind of data is being collected on them, except in this case, it's only being collected on the car. So I appreciate that you covered that point. As someone who works in educational technology myself, I routinely grapple with this dilemma of safety versus privacy. Except in my profession, we're not collecting data on cars. We collect information on student Chromebooks and laptops. And the reason is because when kids are using our public digital infrastructure, we have a moral imperative to keep them safe and to be responsible stewards of their personal information. And while that analogy isn't perfect, I think we have the same basic obligations when it comes to our transportation and public safety infrastructure. So for me, the Flock system passes the test. I'm really excited that this is coming to Temecula. This is exactly the kind of technology like door cameras that enable civilians and law enforcement to work together, and I embrace that. And so my question for you is, I wasn't quite clear on one point. Is there a way for Temecula residents to proactively participate in this program? Like, does it work like a fingerprint system where, a resident might be able to opt in, provide a photo of their car in advance, or is it really just more, at the point in time that the crime is committed?
Yeah, point in time, crime's committed. Everything with this system is reactive or post-crime, right? I will tell you, you brought this up, everything involved in Flock is CGIS compliant. So that's the highest standard that we use for securing data. And it is not a public facing, there's no portal for the public. It's deputy use only, and their investigation has to meet a certain threshold before they can utilize the Flock system. Like, it's not something that a deputy can just get in and start running plates on, right? There's an auditing mechanism. There's an overwatch mechanism. They have to have a right to know and a reason to know, just like any other CLETS entry, NLETS entry, NCIC search. They have to have that two-pronged need to know, right to know. So there would be no reason to upload your vehicle in there to link it to somebody. We do have a security camera registration program within the Sheriff's Department that you can pre-register, like your Ring camera, cameras on your home, or anything like that, that then your address is populated on like a crime analyst map to say, oh, a crime was committed in this area. This resident has these types of cameras on their house that are in close proximity to the crime, so that we can then go to your house and say, hey, from the hours of 6 to 9 last night, can you look at your camera footage to see if you saw anything that looks like this? But those are two different systems, but you can pre-register with a system like that. There is no value to doing anything with Flock. Plus, in 30 days, all that data would be gone anyway.
I see. Thank you. That's excellent information.
Chairman Hagel, I might also add that you may be familiar with the city's surveillance camera system.
Oh, yes.
Where we have video cameras at traffic signals and at various other city facilities. And those are actually capturing video data that we store and actually retain that for a year. And this flock system is completely independent of that system. Like the captain mentioned, it's a cloud-based system. It communicates over a cell network. It does not connect to the city's network. So all the data is collected on that cloud system, and that's how it's accessed and saved. So it's completely independent of the other city surveillance system that you may be familiar with.
So, but the city system, that data would be available to PD should they need it?
Yes, yeah, the police department does have actually monitors that allow them to access the city surveillance system at any time at the Southwest Station, as well as at City Hall at the substation, that they can access those video feeds at any time. But again, the two systems would be completely independent.
Right, but they could be used in conjunction with each other to make an arrest or
Absolutely,
make a case, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, thank you, Captain. I think we'll be looking forward to hearing some stories about its success in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. We are to some degree plagued with, vehicle theft crime in Temecula. We don't have a lot of violent crime, as you know, but we do lose a vehicle from time to time. And I think Flock is surely going to make an impact in that area, as well as catching any criminals that decide to venture in or out of our community, as they do sometimes.
I hope one of the cameras is on the road that leads to the casino. So I have a feeling there's a fair amount of stolen cars that get parked in there.
Well, and okay, so as you brought that up, not only will we be adding flocks within the city limits, but we are working with Pachanga now to put flock cameras in there, as well as I'll be adding flock cameras to the county area that surrounds the city. Because just like I told you about the force field over the city, I don't want them in my surrounding county area either.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And Marietta will be doing the same. The Paris County area will be doing the same. We're all at the very almost the fighting stage for who's going to get the next set of cameras to come out of this company, because everybody's lining up to get them.
Yeah.
Do we have an anticipated timeline of when we'll be up and running?
Well, I think it was 30 days out from the go-ahead. I know the city manager wanted me to bring this in front of you before we took it to council. So I'm hoping we take it to council, I think, actually next week. It may be next week, or Pat, is it next week?
I'm not sure. I don't believe it's on the council agenda next week, but I think we were talking about possibly in May.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so hopefully after, in May, and then 30 days out from that. It won't take them long because of how they install and how independent they are. They can get them up pretty fast. We've already selected the 50 locations from them that would be of the highest value, and so we're ready to roll on our end. Flock's ready to roll, and I think for the most part, the city councils, I've already presented something to them. The city manager just wanted me to bring it to you and make sure you guys were good with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is great, and it sounds like it'll be in before summer. So.
Right. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, we will go on to item number 3 in business. Traffic calming on Pujol Street, stop controls analysis.
All right, Chairman Hagel, Eric Escobedo is going to give that staff report.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Mr. Hagel, just for the record, I wanted to note we don't have any comments on this item.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. As you noted, this is a presentation for traffic calming on Pujol Street, which required a stop controls analysis. Staff received a citizen request in January of this year to consider feasibility of implementing multi-way stop signs and pedestrian crosswalks at the intersection of First Street and Pujol, which is shown in your slide. The request noted safety concerns at this intersection due to excessive speeding and unsafe pedestrian crossings to access Old Town and existing stop signs on Pujol. Can you go to the next slide, Chris? So just a quick background on the intersection. First Street, it's a 56-foot wide secondary arterial. It's posted at 35 miles per hour, carries about 2,400 ADT per day. Pujol Street is a 40-foot wide local residential street, posted 25 north of First Street, and then 30 miles per hour posted south of First Street. And it carries about 3,000 ADT. Next slide, please. So in March of this year, staff collected volume data over a 3-day period. We did entering volume data and pedestrian and bicycle volume data at the intersection. And the data collection, we did a review of the conditions at the intersection, including evaluation of the sight distance, collision history, and a complete multi-way stop warrant analysis at the intersection. So a sight distance evaluation was performed at the intersection using the posted speed limits mentioned before. For a 30 mile per hour speed limit, 200 feet of unobstructed visibility is required. For 25 mile per hour speed limit, 150 feet of unobstructed visibility is required. During our evaluation from the westbound approach of First Street, revealed that there was more than adequate sight distance in both directions. However, evaluation from the eastbound approach at this intersection from First Street noted that there was only approximately 170 feet of visibility from the southerly sight line and 400 feet of visibility for the northerly sight line as shown in this slide. The 200 feet of unobstructed visibility required was not met for that southerly sight line, where we were able to obtain stop sign warrant analysis was performed at this intersection using our multi-way stop sign policy for residential streets. This policy requires the review of 3 warrants that must be satisfied to justify stop signs, including minimum traffic volumes, collision history, roadway character. The result of the analysis section Pujol and First does not satisfy those minimum warrant criteria, and multi-way stops are not justified at this intersection. However, the policy does provide us some flexibility to consider justification of stop signs where there is a need to provide right-of-way assignment due to visibility constraints. And based on the evaluation we did at the intersection of the sight distance criteria, staff has determined that the multi-way stop controls are justified at the intersection of Pujol Street and First Street. We also did a 3-day evaluation of the intersection for pedestrian and bicycle activity. Data collected over that 3 days showed that there was an average of about 200 ADT for pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Based on those volumes, we determined that the installation of some intersection crosswalks are justified at this intersection, as you can see on the slide. And those would be 10-foot wide crosswalks in all directions. So staff's recommendation for the commission tonight is to recommend the city council adopt a resolution establishing multi-way stop controls at the intersection of First Street and Pujol Street, and recommend that staff implement striped pedestrian crosswalks at the intersection of Pujol Street, First Street, pending city council's adoption of the multi-way stop controls. So that concludes the presentation, and I can open it up to any questions.
Okay, questions or comments?
Okay, Mr. Maddox?
Yeah. So my question concerns the future development sort of west of this intersection. In the Altair specific plan, draft EIR, it was determined that the development will cause the level of service for this intersection to drop a level. And there was a mitigation measure that would have the developer mitigate that impact by paying to install all-way stop control at the intersection prior to construction of phase 3 of their project. Now, obviously, the developer is not responsible for the current conditions, and given the 12-month collision history that we're looking at, I'm of the opinion that the safety improvements cannot wait. But my question is there any chance that we'll eventually be able to recoup some of the costs from that developer, or would this trigger any kind of amendment to the EIR?
No, we are currently meeting with the Altair development on a bi-weekly basis to monitor their progress now that they have kicked off in a minor way. Currently, they are taking their time with regards to their development, and we're hoping that that does speed up. However, as you mentioned, Commissioner Maddox, we felt that this particular safety precaution warranted us going forward with it. The costs are minimal enough that we will not ask for a recoup of those funds. However, during the course of working with them in their development, they will have major infrastructure being put in, including the Western Bypass. There will be obviously improvements along Rancho California Road at the intersection of Moraga where the ballast point is. So in the grand scheme of things, they will definitely be paying for quite a bit of infrastructure, including a bridge over the creek and signals within their development as well. So we feel that this cost is minimal as compared to the infrastructure they'll be putting in.
Okay, yeah, that sounds totally reasonable to me. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, I have a question. The Boys and Girls Club is on one of the corners there. And I was wondering if we know if much of that pedestrian traffic is related to that, and is the Boys and Girls Club more or less considered a school?
I'll take a shot at that one. So the Boys and Girls Club has been closed for quite some time. So I would imagine none of that pedestrian or bicycle traffic is attributable to that facility there. And as far as I know, Chair Hagel, they've talked about possibly reopening that, but there's no real plans for that at this time.
Okay. I was going to say that, the crossings would probably greatly help them if they were going to open, but
yeah, and so like you say, the if that was reopened, that would cause the need for this additional stop control to be even that much greater.
right, yeah. So is the pedestrian traffic mostly coming out of Old Town? Is that, people parking on Pujol and or looking for parking on Pujol and walking to? It just seemed like the ADT for pedestrians was quite high compared to, a lot of other projects that we've done.
Actually, the volumes that we got suggest that they were more in the northbound and southbound direction. I would assume they're coming from the apartment complexes there that would be either commuting to these stop signs or bus stops, or going down into Old Town.
Okay. Is there bicycle lanes on either First or Pujol?
There are some on First Street, but none on Pujol. Pujol is actually a shared lane condition. We have some sharrows posted, pavement legends posted on Pujol in northbound and southbound.
Okay, because I was thinking if we were going to ever do something related to, bicycle lanes there, this might be a good time to do that. Okay, any other questions or comments?
No, I'd just like to point out for you and Anessa that Commissioner Richardson has joined us, so he's reflected as here, and I'd be happy to move the staff recommendation.
Okay, so moved. We have a second.
Carter will second.
Carter seconding. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Hagel,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome, JR. Hope traffic wasn't too bad.
There was a little incident out there no one told me about.
Yeah, heading southbound was pretty bad, so
Yeah, my ways got me around it, so I'm happy to be here.
good. Okay, so we're going to go at item number 4, which is Nicole Lane striping plan.
I'll be doing that presentation for you, commissioners. I'll just wait for the screen to
Okay.
get going. Very nice. So the Nicole Lane striping plan, the city of Temecula staff were asked to consider a request to evaluate the Nicole Lane restriping in anticipation of the Mount San Jacinto Temecula Valley campus opening. As a little bit of background, the college purchased the Temecula Valley campus from Abbott in 2018. Renovations have been ongoing since then, and they anticipate an opening in August of this year in 2021. The campus will provide 22 classrooms, 6 science labs, 5 computer classrooms, also a bookstore, cafe, the normal items you would see at a college campus. Of course, that is the starting point, and they anticipate growing from there and to fill out the 2 towers that are there as the Abbott Vascular Building. So city staff did look at the situation because there was a concern regarding the student parking at the campus. And so they have planned on having Nicole Lane be their entrance. And you can see at the bottom of the page there, where it does say Mount San Jacinto Community College, that there is where their main entrance will be. And therefore, there was a concern that students would be parking on Nicole Lane and taking up valuable space, as well as making sight lines and sight distances very cumbersome for traffic in and out through here, and also having a concern for the shopping center and restaurants that are to the top of the page there. So staff did evaluate, and so the recommendation that we would like the commission to direct us is to install the proposed striping that you see on this page, which will include the buffered bike lanes. It will also include a center median striping, and then this will restrict parking all along Nicole Lane to be a no parking situation and provide a safer pedestrian biking access to the campus. And so with that, that'll conclude my presentation, and we'd like your thoughts on directing the installation of the proposed restriping.
Questions, comments? David, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this would be an excellent improvement to the public right-of-way there. I do have one small concern that this might push any potential parking problems into the neighboring commercial centers. So I was hoping maybe can you elaborate on what recourse those business owners have if they encounter non-patron use of their parking lot?
Yes, what we've done is we have done some initial contact with the Properties Owners Association there. We will be having a meeting in conjunction with the campus. We are partnering with MSJC, and we will be discussing those instances of students maybe trying to park there, which will include obviously signage, no parking in the area, but really it falls on a joint effort between that particular POA, Property Owners Association, and their management company and MSJC to make sure that those items aren't happening. It is a concern, and we will have to work with both entities to make sure that the no parking, for students is being monitored closely and implemented.
Yeah, I think one thing that's unusual about this is that there'll probably be a lot of night classes, which you generally don't have at high schools around. So that problem could be spread. Actually, could be even spread onto Saturday as well. So, David, are you finished, or you have more?
Yeah, I think, well, maybe one more thing. I just wanted to check my understanding on one thing. So this was originally intended to be like 9 to 5 office, right? Something along those lines. So as Chairman Hagel mentioned, with the traffic kind of spreading out through the day, are we expecting the overall impact of the college there to be less than what we had originally planned for?
Yes, our community development department has been looking at that, exactly what you're saying as far as the traffic impacts that would be in the surrounding area. The good thing is that there is the mall traffic that is heavy now, that will continue to possibly be a resource for students to go eat, to shop, and to do other things. We do have at the other two corners, and I'm specifically talking about the northwest corner of Solana and Margarita, there is apartments there that students can't park in. And then also on the southeast, there will be as well. Also under review right now, we've received construction documents that Public Works is reviewing. For the southeast corner, that's going to be an assisted living facility. And so therefore, the bleed off into the neighborhoods won't be great. However, the one thing that we will most likely do from a Public Works standpoint and probably bring to this commission, we'll be evaluating the heavy turns in that area, and in the future, should there be a need, maybe some of the pockets need to be extended. It's something we'll have to evaluate, but we have no kind of idea right now until we start to see the usage of the campus and how it grows and how it fills out.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the education on that. Thank you.
I've got one question, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead, Skip.
As far as the, do they have adequate parking on the campus? And with that said, do they charge for it, which would deter more than folks not wanting to pay and have them park somewhere off-site?
Yeah, we've had those discussions, and a couple of things. First of all, Abbott has retained the parking structures that are currently on the site. So Abbott still owns that, and so therefore the students won't be able to use that. The current parking configuration will accommodate the modest opening that they are planning for this year. During build out though, eventually the goal is for that easement for Abbott to run out, and then they possibly in the future use the parking structures. And in addition to that, they have partnered with, we've helped them along with RTA because they're trying to do a very robust public transportation push for students. And so the campus actually purchases bus passes for students to be utilized. So there would be no cost there. And then they will keep the permit fees relatively modest as well in order to, not cause a situation where students will park 2 miles away and ride a bike in, because it's too expensive. So all of those options are on the table right now, and they're working hard with RTA and with Abbott to make sure there's adequate parking on the site.
Thank you.
JR, you have anything?
Yeah, I do. I like the removing the trucks from the curb there, which we see now if you drive this road, which I do, and just making visibility and pedestrian safety a top priority. Knowing that there's some restaurants over there. There's a Wahoo Fish Taco. I anticipate students will be crossing this road to get to the restaurants. Has there been any talk of a crosswalk along this stretch of road we're seeing here to designate where we want students to cross as opposed to everywhere?
Well, funny you should ask. There's been discussions with RTA regarding a stop there in that location. And there has been discussions of a crosswalk or installing maybe some RRFBs that we've done at Great Oak. And so independent of what we're asking today for the restriping, we have a meeting with RTA and Mount San Jacinto on Monday. And we're going to be discussing that very scenario that you're mentioning, Commissioner JR.
Yep.
And we will probably be coming back to you at that time to discuss those pedestrian safety features. So that's still up in the air. It's just independent of our initial proposal here.
Very good. Thank you, Ron.
Brad, do you have anything? If there's anything left?
No.
No.
Thank
Well, what thrills me is that it seems like every possible thing has been thought of and is being discussed. And I think we're well ahead of the curve of not coming back and putting red striping all along the road, a year from now because there's so many problems. So, and that, you're thinking of all the other issues to all the other neighbors around. So I think, we've got a good pulse on what's going on. So with that, I will take a motion. Yes, I'll take a motion.
I'll move it since everyone's quiet.
Yeah.
I'll move the staff recommendation.
JR will second.
Okay, so we have a first by Commissioner Sullivan and a second by Commissioner Richardson. So roll call vote.
I did want to note we did not have any comments on this item. Roll call, Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Hagel,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to item number 5, Pueblo Road Pavement Rehab Project Striping Plan. And I'll ask if there is any comments. I assume there isn't any comments from what you had said earlier.
We don't have any comments on this item.
Okey doke. So we'll get a presentation on this one.
So I'll be giving this presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So this is regarding the Pablo Road restriping as part of the capital improvement project that for pavement rehabilitation that's being performed on Pablo Road. Staff was asked to consider a request from City Council Member Schwenk that the striping for the Pablo Road pavement rehab project be revised to include additional bike lane facilities. The revision would involve the addition of bike lanes to be added on the south and north side of Pablo Road from Margarita Road to Linfield Way via Rami intersection. And this revision will require modifying the current lane configuration from 2 lanes to 1 lane heading east on Pablo Road and shifting over that striped center line to the south to accommodate the westbound bike lane. The bike lanes will vary from 5 to 6 feet wide and will include a 2-foot wide buffer alongside them. And these changes will require some minor adjustments to approaching lanes at the intersections of Pablo Road with Margarita and with Linfield Way. This will require, again, a few minor adjustments to our traffic signal detection, our loops, and there will be one minor change to one of our signal heads at our traffic signal, but that's all within the scope of the pavement rehabilitation project. So if you have any questions on the slides or on the proposed improvements, I'll be happy to turn it over to you now.
Bob, I have questions.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you. We have 2 lanes presently on the eastbound. What is the average traffic and are we going to be creating a backup of vehicle traffic for an exchange for bike traffic?
Currently, the ADT for traffic east of Margarita is about 12,000, a little bit under 12,000 ADT. That's both directions. So you're looking at about 6,000, which isn't much for this stretch of road. So I think the 1 lane configuration would be sufficient to deal with those types of volumes.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else, any questions or comments?
If I could mention, to kind of add on to Eric's explanation there. So the road is not at its ultimate width. Ultimately, the north side of Pablo would be widened and improved. And at that time, potentially be able to add those additional lanes. But because that's not in the foreseeable future, that's why the request was made to add the 2 bike lanes at this time and eliminate that 1 eastbound lane, thinking that the 1 lane in each direction is enough to accommodate the current traffic, and potentially in the future that would be widened back out to those 2 lanes.
Thank you.
I walk the road and travel the road pretty much every day, so I have never noticed a lot of traffic on that road, regardless of what time of day. It's a probably underutilized road.
Yeah, I had just had one question. If we go to one lane eastbound, I see a driveway there to the north, so we would now have one lane. And is there still going to be a center median for left turn traffic, or would we potentially have, left turn vehicles stopped in the single traffic lane?
Yes, there would still be left turns available out of there. So it's not shown in this slide, unfortunately, because this is only referencing the striping that was done on Linfield or near the Linfield intersection, which is the most affected. But there will still be access for you to turn left out of the driveways.
So I'm talking
And-
about
and
the eastbound traffic turning left into driveways.
Yeah, we're currently only going to be having a striped center line. So that's more than sufficient for you to be able to turn into certain driveways. The other locations where we have driveways are shown towards the end of the slide. And we are doing a detailed 32 stripe median there, which would allow for those left turns.
Very good. So I know there's a church down there, and just to confirm, it would be single lane all the way to Margarita.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a few questions on this one.
Okay.
And, first one is maybe not within the scope of pavement rehab. But I noticed that this one segment of road has a pretty high concentration of schools, maybe the highest in the city, with TVHS and Springs Charter, Linfield, Paloma del Sol. It's also a well-traveled route to Temecula Middle School. So my first question is about the pedestrian lanes. I know that most of the properties directly north of Pavo were developed well before Temecula incorporated. Paloma del Sol didn't exist yet, and I think a few kids were still riding horses to school back then. So from that historical perspective, it makes sense why we don't have a continuous sidewalk there. And maybe, a concrete sidewalk wouldn't be the most appropriate fit for the rural character of that very low density neighborhood on that side of the road. Now my first question is, do we see any benefit or need for a continuous connected pedestrian path on that side of the road? Or conversely, are there any obstacles that might prevent us from constructing one?
I think I'd leave that one to Pat. I think it's more of a cost. It wasn't initially done with like you mentioned, those developments to the north side of Pavo Road. I'm not sure if there's any current plans to widen that road, but I think a pedestrian access would be warranted there.
Yeah, so this road, Pavo, based on its classification, would be intended to have sidewalks at all locations. So wherever the road is not at its ultimate width, the plan would be, when it is widened, the sidewalk would be included. And then any of the sections where it is at its ultimate width and there's just no sidewalk, that's something that we would plan to do, at some point as a city project.
Okay, excellent.
And there is crosswalks, I believe, every place it needs to be wherever there's a school. So, I mean, there is both the dirt path and the sidewalk on the south side. So there's plenty of places to walk, as long as it's safe to cross the street with crosswalks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, and my second question then, to turn the subject from pedestrian to bicycle now, and looking at where Pava meets Butterfield, and half of each road crosses into Riverside County jurisdiction. Have we had any talks with the county about striping bike lanes on their side of the road so that the lanes don't just abruptly end at city limits?
That's a great question, and I would have to say no, we haven't had that discussion with the county. If there is an opportunity to add bike lanes, we can certainly approach the county about that.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's a good point, David. We'll bring that up with the county and see if that's something they're willing to do.
Right, I appreciate it. And it could be, sort of similar to how they collaborated with us on Goldenrod Road recently.
Right.
How we combine those bike lanes and sharrows, and they all kind of transition smoothly there.
Well, I think where Pawba crosses over Butterfield, it's Temecula city limits all the way. Actually, probably at least another quarter mile down the road because one of our neighborhoods is there. But then I believe it turns into private road.
Mhm.
So I don't think most people bicycling would probably go too much past Butterfield on Pawba.
No, yeah, I avoid that private road. It's in kind of bad condition. I think that northern half of Paba there, just along that strip, that might be county, but I'd have to
Could
check
be.
on
I
that.
know it goes in and out, and it's hard to know
Yeah.
where it's county. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah,
And
Bob,
then-
I believe it's anything on the east side of Butterfield is county.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe the
Also-
city county is boundaries, the center line of Butterfield there at that location.
So that what's the neighborhood that's there?
Downhill.
Crown Hill. Is Crown Hill all of it in Temecula, or only part of it in Temecula, or none of it in Temecula?
Well, that Crown Hill is all in Temecula. So I guess, yeah, you're right that it kind of jogs back at for Crown Hill. Yeah, Crown Hill is all within the
Yes.
city limits.
Okay, so then
And that's-
at Pawba, it actually where it jogs so that, but then
Yes,
that would make the east
Terry.
side, that would make the east side further, from Pawba south to Temecula Parkway. That wouldn't make that county, that would make that city there.
so I think
This
it's
Jerry,
just,
the Pava Road at the, where the dirt section is on the north side of Pava Road, that's all county.
Yeah.
And then the south side where Crown Hill, obviously that's all in the city. So the
City.
center line of that roadway is the city boundary between the county and the city.
Okay, going north from Pawba. It's split, right?
Right.
Okay,
Right, and then going east towards that private section, the north side of that is also the county.
is also
So
county.
where those homes are at, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess at some point it probably would be worth discussing with the county, bicycle lanes, because we obviously have a number of roads that go into the county, so and some of those roads would be great places for bicycling. So
yeah, that one strip of Butterfield especially, that's between Paba and Rancho California, that one's real rough on a bike, and there's no dedicated bike lane. There's a nice wide shoulder, but it's the shoulder's in really bad condition.
Well, I can tell you so the project, this pavement rehab project that we're doing includes this segment of Paba and also includes Butterfield Stage Road from Rancho Cal all the way down to Deportola. So we'll be putting a fresh new coat of smooth asphalt and then striping bike lanes in on all of that.
That's excellent. Yeah, I definitely want to see that, completed as part of that larger Temecula bike loop.
Right.
So that's great.
Cool.
Okay, one more question, and then I'm done. So in terms of vehicular traffic, sort of to dovetail off of Commissioner Sullivan's concerns there, I see that by adding the bike lane, shifting the center line south, we are going to be effectively putting the road on a little bit of a diet there, which I think is warranted with the two school entrances just down the hill from Margarita as you're heading east. But I wanted to ask if we'll be keeping an eye on how that affects the vehicular level of service, if at all.
Yeah, definitely something that we'll be monitoring. Also, we will be this portion of road is actually scheduled to be resurveyed for a speed survey. So we'll be performing that, and maybe at that time we can take a look and see if the conditions are affected negatively, especially once school gets back up and running full time. So we can definitely go out there and take a look at that.
Excellent, thank you. That's all for me.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion for Pueblo Road pavement rehab project striping plan.
I'd
So
move the
moved.
recommendation.
Okay.
I'll second.
Who moved?
David moved it and I'm seconding.
Oh, okay. So we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Hagel,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, number 6, Sandia Creek Drive Gates Project. This is a receive and file. And I gather we don't have any comments or,
No comments.
okay.
All right, well, Chair Hagel, I've got a brief staff report for you on this. And Ron, I don't know, did you do a slide for this one?
Right there.
All right, there we go. So the County of San Diego came to us late last year regarding an application they had received from residents on this portion of Sandia Creek to install gates on the road because of the what they called the cut through traffic that the road was being used by folks who were going in between Fallbrook and Temecula. And the portion of the road that they're proposing to gate is private. It's actually privately owned in that one section. So the residents, the owners submitted the application to the County of San Diego. That was reviewed. It was presented to the Fallbrook Planning Group a couple of different times. And I believe it was actually earlier this year was approved by the county for the installation of these gates. So they did approve that. I believe they may actually be in the process of putting these gates in now. It was approved, so they're moving forward. They did require that there be turnarounds both at the north and south end of the section that would be gated. And they actually required that there be 2 sets of gates installed. That this has been approved by the County of San Diego. It's all within the County of San Diego jurisdiction. The Riverside San Diego County line is just north of the section that is being gated. And so it has been approved. They're moving forward. The gates will be accessible by emergency vehicles. So they will be able to use that portion of the road for emergency purposes. However, it won't be open for public use anymore. So that is in effect and moving forward. There is an alternate way that you can take to get around Sandia Creek and still get down to Fallbrook, but it's quite a ways further.
Mhm.
And that portion is all a public road. So we just wanted to bring this information to the commission just to make you aware of it. And that concludes my report.
I hope that the San Diego County has discussed this with Pendleton, since I know a lot of Marines take that to the back gate of Pendleton that live in this area. So that may be a shocker for quite a few people.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there any plan to at least initially put signage up that says Sandia Creek Road is closed, so we don't have 1,000 people heading up the hill only to discover that it's closed now?
Yeah, commissioners, that was the reason we started to hear about this, is because they were going to apply for an encroachment permit to put out some CMS boards at Rancho California Road heading up to Duluth. So that's going to be a big part of the notification process.
That's good, because it's a long trip up to where those gates are going to be. And if you had to turn around and you're late for work, you'd be pretty upset. So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That is the end of business for tonight. We will go on to the traffic engineer's report.
Okay, well, Commissioner Hagel and Chairman Hagel and commissioners, I wanted to just give you an update on some current projects that the city has underway or about ready to start. One is our, what we call our, and these are all pavement rehab type projects. One is we're doing an ARAM treatment to the roads that are in the, what we call the West Side Business Park. So the roads on the west side of Jefferson and Diaz and Business Park Drive in that area. That's underway. The first coating, the first leveling course of asphalt's been applied, and then the ARAM material will be applied over the next couple of months. So that project's underway. Our what we call our Inez County Center Drive, Equity Drive pavement rehab project's about ready to get started. That'll be a full asphalt overlay on Inez north of Winchester, as well as County Center and Equity, and also includes a portion of Winchester east of Nicholas, or out to the eastern end of the city. That'll be starting here in the very near future. The project that you just heard, the PABA Butterfield Stage Road Rehab Project, is a full width asphalt overlay on those two roads, PABA from Margarita to Butterfield Stage Road, and then Butterfield Stage from Rancho Cal to DePortola. And that'll be something that'll be under construction this summer. And then we'll also be doing a residential slurry seal project that includes Temecula Hills and a few other neighborhoods in the city this summer. So we'll be busy with paving projects going on this summer, the rest of this year. And then for the last part of this report, I wanted to ask Ron if he could give an update on the status of the Rancho California Water District project and Temecula Parkway and the work going on Overland Drive near Costco also.
Not a problem. So on Temecula Parkway, they are completing the final portion of the water line installation that is going to Avenida de Misiones. But of course, there's still some appurtenances to do. They have a jack and bore in the intersection of Jedediah Smith. So when they do that jack and bore, it'll be probably a 2-night operation where they will have to close Jedediah Smith just from De Portola over to Temecula Parkway. So it'll be a short detour. They still are on track after all the appurtenances and all of the repaving and the testing of the water line. It's looking like they'll be out of there July 1st. So that's still the goal. And so they have been on track to complete it in the time amount that they had originally worked with us, the city, to do. So that is going well. As far as the Overland project, that's another RCWD project where they're going from Yanez over to Margarita and then down towards Solana. They have one more night to complete the installation. After that, it looks like they're going to be doing the repaving next week. So it'll be Thursday, Friday, most likely, night. We're going to make them do night work on that one. Just too busy in that intersection. So that one's wrapping up rapidly here and should be complete by probably within 2 weeks as far as all cleanup and everything being complete, striping and all. So that's the status of those two projects.
Just one last item to add, just for your information, we'll have a presentation for the commission on the proposed CIP budget for next year at your next meeting in May.
Good. Thank you, Patrick. So what's happening at the California Highway Patrol?
Sorry, some technical difficulties unmuting
That's
myself.
right.
So thank you very much for having me again. I always appreciate being here. So let me share my screen here. Can everyone see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, let's just, how about I close that. All right, well, can everyone still see me? I think I'm messing myself up worse than I'm trying to help here. There we go. All right, so does everyone have the report that I sent in?
Yeah.
I'll go over it anyway. So as far as services provided, we had 422 motorist services, 19 child safety seat installations. And one of the things I'm really happy about with the opening of Riverside County, a little bit more, we've been able to start up our Start Smart classes again, which is educational for teens and their parents. We had our first class on March 25th, and our next class is next week on April 29th. Unfortunately, we're having a hard time finding space and still making sure we have social distancing and everything. So classes are limited. They fill up really quick, but if anyone's interested, to please contact our office and we'll get them signed up. But so yeah, next one is April 29th. Enforcement activities, 696 citations issued and then a total of 1,274 enforcement contacts. That includes verbal warnings, written warnings. We're continuing a lot with our focused high crash reduction grant, making a lot of use of that. And one of the places we've been specifically using is street racing complaints on Anza and Kimisol. We've had 3 different operations there now where they've had obviously with street racing, it's kind of hit and miss, but we do know that the weekends has definitely been one of the times that they've been having the most problems. So we've been sending units there using that grant. And then we've had a lot of success so far in trying to calm the neighborhood down, but we also know that we're pushing them now into the city of Temecula. And if you drive around Temecula, I'm sure a lot of different places you've seen the fresh skid marks and the donuts that have been in the streets. So we've actually paired up with Temecula Police Department, Riverside County Sheriff's Department, and starting in May, we're going to start doing some joint operations with them, really trying to, instead of being more sitting back and waiting for them to come to us, we're going to go more looking for them throughout the Red Hawk and the Morgan Hill area and the unincorporated area around Anza and Kimisol. So we've had some success, but not enough yet. So we're going to keep pressure on there. For DUI arrests, we're still maintaining about our average. We had 40 DUI arrests. 3 of those were drug DUI arrests, which to me, it continues to be encouraging. It's still one of the trends we have with our fatal collisions is people driving under the influence of drugs. For traffic collisions, we had 95 non-injury crashes, 60 injury crashes, 2 fatalities. So that puts us as of April, March 30th anyways, we had a total of 7 fatal accidents, a total of 159 accidents in March, sorry. And then for our fatalities, we had one on SR 74 west of Ellis. That was a head-on traffic collision, a vehicle crossing over the solid double yellow lines. And then southbound 215 at Clinton Keith, we had a 3-car DUI related traffic collision. And that's pretty much what's happening in Temecula. Again, we're hoping with more openings, we'll be able to get our senior volunteers back, which helps a lot with us as far as traffic complaints, because they're very eager to be out there and very much appreciate what they do. But having them drive around, even though they have the out of service sign in the window, having them drive around, the unincorporated areas around our schools has been very helpful. And we know they love doing it. So we're hopeful that, hopefully, fingers crossed, in June, we'll be able to phase them back in. And anyone have any questions?
The Sandia Creek, road closure how is that going to affect CHP?
It's going to obviously increase our traffic on the 15 as people aren't able to use that cut through. That's actually between us and the Oceanside area, which covers the Fallbrook area. We get a lot of calls out there with traffic complaints and speeding and accidents. So I think it's going to help our overall traffic collisions go down because they won't be there, but it's obviously going to impact more of the 15 freeway. So it'll add more traffic.
Yeah. The other question I had was Ortega Highway with I think that's a 4-year project to repave that. Overall, do you think that will help with reducing accidents up there?
That's my hope. I was actually talking to the Capistrano CHP commander this morning, and we talked about fatal accidents, and he hasn't really had a problem on Ortega, and Ortega has been one of my hot spots. We have several fatals there, but it's also just a lot of major crashes and major injury crashes. So that's my hope, is that it will still. One of our major problems up there is the motorcycles driving too fast. So my hope is that once we clear up the problem we have with Anza and Kimisol and the street racers, that we can focus more attention, because we did give a lot of attention earlier in the year to Ortega Highway. So that's my hope, is to move around. You plug one hole and then you put your finger in the other hole. So we'll move from this one to that one. Yeah. We're still giving it attention, but we'll be giving it more attention very, very soon.
The number of fatals this year, how does that compare with last year?
For 2019, we had 30 fatals, and then 2020 we had 30 again. So 7. Unfortunately, this morning, the accident on the 15 this afternoon, that was a fatality. So we're doing okay. But what I've also noticed a trend, both here in Temecula, then also in El Cajon, my previous command was, it seems like September every year in both places, we were kind of doing okay. And then October, November, December, for whatever reason, they all went out of control. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on and trying to project forward, is to making sure we give a concerted effort here at the end of the year to try and keep our fatals down.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, Captain. Fire Chief's report. Let's see. Dan, are you there?
He's trying to unmute.
He's trying to unmute.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, gentlemen. I got 3 different screens trying to catch up here, so my apologies for that. In terms of the fire department and services provided for the city of Temecula, we've seen actually an uptick here recently. For February, we ran a total of 699 calls, whereas in March, we saw an increase of about 50 to 748. For that, we've noticed traffic collisions slightly went up within city limits. Again, referencing February was 52, March was 58. Bulk of our calls, as always, are usually medical aid or medical emergencies. We're at 553 for the month of March. And then we deal with a whole host of others with false alarms, as you guys can see on the slide there. And then numerous types of fires. Obviously, we're getting into that point or that season where we're putting on our NOMEX quite a bit more now with coming into fire season. So we have that old adage every year. We keep saying, it's going to be the worst fire season ever. And we get really tired of saying that and hearing it. So so that's it for as far as our call volume. Like I said, a slight uptick from February to March. As far as in the plans and reviews component, in February, our inspectors conducted 619 plan reviews and then 485 inspections. Moving into March, 446 for the plan review, which brought us a year to date to 1,065. What's notable about that is even with the COVID shutdown, and obviously up until recently, City Hall opening back up, our inspectors were still out there. They were still able to engage, and we're actually an increase in numbers with those in the construction inspections, as well as the annuals that they're conducting on behalf of the city and the fire department.
Is inspections of businesses, is state law requiring it annually? Is that what it is now?
Traditionally, correct.
Yeah. So it seems like we're well on our way of meeting that goal. So
yeah. And then what we're going to see as we transition into fire season is our folks will also be out conducting those defensible space inspections as well to prepare our, our residents in the local and outlining areas to be prepared for fire season. So we're starting to kick off that program as well.
Yeah. I gather there was must have been a bad accident on the 15 yesterday afternoon, probably 2-3 o'clock, something like that, because I think I saw 5 or 6 engines go by responding to something going on up there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just came on duty this morning, and then as Captain Penner said, I was tied up for about 4 hours on that accident that occurred just south of Winchester there.
So that was the one that was the fatal then.
Yep. And then for the final slide, as you guys will see there, last week on the 13th, we did the unveiling to City Council and the citizens of Temecula, our new purchase, which was the new ladder truck.
Yeah.
So that was purchased with Measure S funding, about $1.3 million. The staffing component stays the same. It's staffed with 4 personnel every day, 24 hours a day. And that's going to be housed out of our Station 73. And we're pretty excited about that. The truck that we had previously was over 17 years old, and it was starting to be a little long in the tooth and showing its age for those guys. So we're pretty excited about the technology and what this offers, obviously, to the citizens and public safety component.
So the old truck is at 95, is that correct?
Correct. So what we're doing is we're going to keep that as a reserve with our tiller trucks. Traditionally, once they start getting up in age, we start running into issues with the hydraulics or the aerial components or just a service and maintenance component. So we'll be able to utilize that one, keep it, in the dugout, if you will, so that when the time arises and we need to take the new one out of service, whether it be for maintenance or any issues, we can still provide that service to the citizens with an aerial ladder truck.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, one question here. I was just curious what the like normal lifespan of that new truck would be. How many years we're going to get out of it?
So traditionally, in the way we manage our fleet is we try to shoot for at least 10 to 15 years as a frontline apparatus. And then based on that, then we have a system where we roll those over into a reserve status. And then those reserve engines, essentially, we take them off the books, sell them or get rid of them based on if it's a city asset or a county asset. So we're projecting with this truck, we're probably looking at that same lifespan of that 15 years or so. And like I said, 17 years out of that last truck. That's a pretty good run for the weight of that truck, the amount of equipment it carries, and the wear and tear of just driving up and down the roads. So we got our money's worth out of the old truck 73.
Well, then you have all the technology changes too, don't you?
Yeah, and we're seeing a vast improvement with that, with a lot of the NFPA restrictions that we're doing clean cab and some of the stuff that we've been able to give the folks that are riding on that thing, some of the minor creature comforts that it makes it a lot easier on them and allows them to do their job better. So.
And the camera on the ladder, which is, I think, a great addition.
Yeah, it is for sure. That and the remote nozzle, so we can set up for that aerial master stream is really going to be nice. So we can get those guys off that tip and not expose them to those elements or where they have to sit up there for hours on end sometimes for that suppression effort. So
worthy investment for our city. I was just going to say a good long-term investment. I'm happy to see it.
Yeah. And we actually just put her to work 2 days ago. We had a residential structure fire and that aerial went up, and the difference between the speed and expediting that aerial, I was thoroughly impressed. Those guys were on the roof in no time flat, cutting holes and ventilating that roof and getting those elements off the guys that were making the push inside. So we're pretty happy with it.
So they know how to use it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Police Chief's report. Sergeant. Get you off mute. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. March was pretty productive, and April's we're going to see an uptick more in traffic violations and citations in April as well. So in March, our citations issued for hazardous moving violations was 1,169, bringing our 3-month total to 2,996 moving violation citations. Non-hazardous citations we're looking at for March 172, and February it was 119, bringing a 3-month total to 435. Click it or ticket, our seatbelt violations, we had 9 for March, 12 for February, and we're I think we'll do better than that this month in April. Distracted driver, the cell phones, 221. So a lot of people on those phones. I don't drive a motor. I drive a one of the new big SUVs, and I see it. I mean, I'm a big flag driving around, and I'm still issuing many citations as far as cell phones. Parking violations, we had 93. Written warning citations, we had 256. Stoplight abuse citations were 47 for the month. Commercial enforcement sites were 28 for the month. Injury collisions, we had 20 for the month. No fatalities, and 41 DUI arrests.
41?
41, yeah.
Wow.
And we're probably going to beat that this month.
Really?
So that brings, for the DUI arrest, that brings a total of 105 for the year. So that's pretty good when considering that we're only capturing a fraction of those. And as far as the distracted driver, the cell phone, we're 386 for the month.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I'm glad to see the seatbelts are finally down, but they're putting on their seatbelts and then getting on the cell phone. So
Exactly. And I'll add that for some of our upcoming operations that we have coming up is one is a cell phone operation. And that's going to be, it's under distracted driving. So anything that distracts the driver, we're going to plan it out for that. And that's going to be at the end of the month. And I believe that one is on April 28th. And then in May, we have a couple of operations that we're going to put on too. One is going to be a DUI saturation in May, Cinco de Mayo, near there.
yeah.
As far as the end of May, we're looking at another saturation patrol, and that's going to include an intel, DUIs, cell phones, any distracted driving, all encompasses in one. And we're going to have 2 of those in the month of May.
Good. Yeah, I know the saturation patrols are usually yield quite a bit. So
Yes, they do.
yeah,
Especially now that things have opened up and people are out more, we're getting a little bit more busy.
questions, comments? David, nothing?
Yeah, I was waiting for David.
I think I've talked enough tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So last thing we have is commissioners' reports. Anybody?
I have something.
Go ahead, Brad.
This is for Sergeant Roberts. After checking out Pujol and First Street, I was heading home, and at the intersection of First and Old Town, I was stopped for the red light to go across Santiago. And in the 35-40 seconds I was there, 4 cars that made a right turn next to me, 3 of them ran the light. They just charged through, never even could have stopped if someone was coming at them. There's a parking lot directly across the street from that, and a couple of your motor units could probably be pretty busy there interacting with that pattern.
First and Pujo?
This is, it's no, First and Pujol is where we were checking for the always stop sign. I was coming back towards Old Town, so I stopped at the intersection. I'm sorry? Okay, I heard
It's the Santiago Bridge, right? You're talking about?
Well, yeah.
First and Old Town Front Street.
Yes, First and Old Town Front Street, and they were heading south. You know, they'd make a right turn, not towards Old Town, but towards like the Shell station and Temecula Parkway. And they just, 3 of the 4 just never even looked, never even stopped.
Okay. I will advise my my motor officers, but I don't know if all of you are aware that we do have a Metro team now down there, and they are responsible for saturating physical complaints and traffic violations down in the Old Town district. So I want to let them know, as well as my daytime motor officers as well. So that seems like a good spot to park.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a couple things.
Okay, JR, go ahead.
A couple meetings ago, I mentioned that with the completion of the Butterfield Stage Road widening, we'd noticed some street racing out here, apparently starting from that intersection and racing away. We've noticed a significant reduction recently in the last week or so. So I don't know if any of you all got out here, or if they've just moved down to Captain Penner's other areas, but the problem that came with that widening seems to have been greatly reduced recently. So that's a good thing to report. The other thing, living near this corner here, I noticed overnight, a couple nights ago, that there seemed to be a power outage and some Edison trucks working overnight with their lights on, and the entire winery section up there, Callaway, seemed to be in the dark under a power outage. And then a day or two later, we had a power outage at the intersection of Rancho Cal and Margarita with the stop signs out in the road. Just wondering, is this part of a planned Edison refurbishment, or is this some kind of a failure and response?
Well, I can tell you the outage at Rancho Cal and Margarita was planned by the city, and that was to rewire all of the wiring for that traffic signal. So we did have the power shut down there and reran all the wiring while the power was shut down. So that was a 2-day project, and that's done now.
Good. Very good. That's all I have, Commissioner Hagel.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Skip. I just have one.
Yep, go ahead.
Real quick on Red Hawk Parkway, where we have that's Faxon Lane going into that new development that was just recently put there a couple of years ago now. When people are leaving that development, instead of taking the right turning, making a U-turn at Van Owen, they look both ways and then they cut across, and where there's a left turn lane and a little island there, they go opposite traffic and make that U out of there. And I was wondering if there's some way to put some stanchions or something there to prevent them from taking that left and going down and just making the U-turn, a legal U-turn, because it's gonna cause a crash, even though we've got reduced speed limit at 45 now, which is working out well. Each time I walk past it, there's somebody coming out of that development. Instead of going right, they go, across there and go the opposite and then loop around. It saves them a couple of feet, but it's pretty dangerous.
Ron, you and Eric want to look into that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Too.
Yep, we will evaluate.
Okay, I just have one item from a city council meeting. Council voted on whether to continue virtual meetings or have in-person meetings, and they voted to continue having virtual meetings through June, the first meeting in June. That subject will be brought up again, and we can anticipate probably our July meeting being an in-person meeting. Right now, the state has scheduled June 15th to basically drop the COVID-19 requirements. And so that's why they're anticipating that we probably start in July, if everything goes according to how it's been going. And that is all I have from city council meeting. Anything else anyone has? Then we will adjourn our Public Traffic Safety Commission meeting to Thursday, May 27th, 2021 at 6 p.m. virtually. And that's it for tonight. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe.
Good evening.